way through the session. Excellent. Well, you're here for Agile Antipatterns, the ScrumMaster's Guide to Traps, Tripwires, and Treachery. Excellent. I'm Weisbart. I'm a certified Scrum trainer. I live in San Francisco, California. So I took a very short flight over here to visit all of you. Thanks for having me. And I'm going to talk about Agile Antipatterns. I'm going to introduce what Agile Antipatterns are, at least to me, and show you some of the Agile Antipatterns that I collected from around the world using a site that I created called the Agile Antipatterns project. Then I'm going to give you a few tools that I have found useful for addressing Agile Antipatterns. And we're going to actually try using some of the tools. So, let's see. Several years ago, I was an Agile coach for an organization that brought me in to help them switch from what they were doing, which looks sort of like waterfall, to being more agile. They had started as a small 3-person company and grown to about 150 people. And during that time, they lost their agile roots. So the 3 founders and the board brought me in to help roll out Scrum. And one of the great things I thought about taking this job was the VP of engineering, to whom I would report once I got this job, had done Scrum. He told me, well, when he first told me, he said it like 2 different major companies, and as time went on, it became 3 and 4 when he told the story more. And I thought to myself, this is great. My job will be very simple because he's already done Scrum. I'm just here to help. And I sort of thought, well, I had this nagging feeling like, why would they bring me in and pay me money if this guy was already doing such things? So it was okay. For the first month, I sort of immersed myself in the organization and tried to figure out what was going on. And he and I would have these conversations about how we were going to roll Scrum forward in the organization. And it started out really quite well. But around that time, I came across this quote on Ken Schwaber's blog, and he said, Scrum is like chess. You either play it as the rule states, or you don't. Scrum and chess do not fail or succeed. They're either played or not. And this rang especially true to me at the time because the VP that I was sitting down with to plan out the Agile initiative there, we would sit down at our imaginary Scrum/chess board, and he would say, so we'll do this, and he'd move a piece forward, and I thought, that sounds very reasonable. That actually fits with what I would do. That seems like a good plan. And then I'd move a piece forward, and then he'd move a piece forward, and I'd move a piece forward. I thought, we're really clicking along. We're playing this chess game of sort of rolling out Scrum. And then, out of nowhere, it would be his turn to move a piece, and he would say, go fish. And I thought to myself, there are unfortunately chickens and pigs in Scrum, but there are no fish. He does not know what he's talking about, clearly, and I would correct him. He'd say, no, I've done this many, many times, 3 or 4, or maybe by the end 10 times before. Continue, and he'd move a piece, and I'd move a piece. And I realized these things that he was saying were anti-patterns to Scrum. It took me a little bit to figure this out. But they're anti-patterns. And so I started collecting these anti-patterns as quotes with the hope that if you could quickly identify these anti-patterns, you could more quickly help your organization or your team move forward with Scrum. You see a few blank stares. So I'll give you some examples that might help. They're codified here as quotes. And if you've heard these before, feel free to just raise your hand if you've heard one. Here's one. We're in a hurry, so we'll do QA after this sprint. Okay, so some people have heard this. We can never get in touch with our product owner. Fewer, some of the same people. All right. Oh, yes. He was big on this one. I loved this one. This came directly from him. The team is doing a documentation sprint before they start coding. Anyone? All right. So I have a bunch of these. Oh, this one is great. My boss is on my team. So I collected a bunch of these, both from that organization, my own experience, and from around the world. You can go and submit them at agileantipatterns.com. And I've created a deck here of these items that we can address. So, let us see. Well, there's my little logo for the Agile Antipatterns project. It's got the little inspected adapt loops of Scrum, but they can hurt you. You know, right? They're dangerous. So I'm going to give you a toolbox for defusing some of these Agile Antipatterns, or really all of them. Some of the tools you might be familiar with, others might be new to you, but I'm going to go over the 3 tools that I like using, and then we're actually going to get a chance at our tables to address these. You'll get to actually address these, or if you have some that are not on these cards and you'd like to address those, we'll be able to do that as well. So the first one it's actually a tool called the Vanilla Ice Rule. Here's some laughs. So I'm hoping that some of you recognize Vanilla Ice in the early 90s. Anybody? Unfortunately? I apologize that we exported him and you've heard of him. I think he's now a reality TV show. However, it turns out that Vanilla Ice, back in the early 90s, was, one, apparently from the streets. I think it was Sesame Street, but nevertheless, he was from the streets. And two, he was an early Agilist. Nobody ever believes me about this, but I'm going to prove it to you. It was in his first song, even maybe the first line of it. Let's see. You know that was there? So, one of my first Scrum teams I was working with, I wish I had realized that this had been planted in my subconscious with the ripped off track from Queen earlier in my life, because I had a really hard time as a new Scrum Master with this one team. And this might seem familiar to you all. I'll outline the scenario. We're in sprint planning, and it's a new team that has not worked together cross-functionally before. We are in one of the first sprint plannings we were ever in, and we're estimating our user stories. We're playing Mike Cohn's team estimation game, and a couple people in the room hold up a 55 when we're going on this thing, and the rest of the room, all developers, hold up ones. And a huge argument ensued. And I was a new Scrum Master, I was not very good at diffusing this, and it went on for a little bit and got really quite heated. Then, if I had this little earworm stuck in my head, I would have known better. It took me a little bit of time. Now this jumps into my head anytime I run into this situation. Vanilla Ice bothers me with this. And I realized in that situation, after some time, that both sides were actually saying the exact same thing. And you might have run into this exact pattern before. The people that were saying it was a 1 were the development team, the folks who were doing development work, not the Scrum development team, but the developers. And the 2 people that were giving it a 55 were the QA folks. Anybody ever run into this? And it turned out that they were saying the same thing and having this heated argument about it. They just weren't saying all of the same thing together. Half of them were saying, it's a very quick change, we can do that in a second, we'll give it a 1. Which is true. The other part that was true, the QA folks who gave it a 55, once they got a chance to say so, they said, hey, it's great that that's a 1 for you, but it touches our whole world. We have no automated tests for that bit of code, and we're going to have to test everything manually after you make that change. And everybody, after this sort of got out, we had a conversation about that. They were able to estimate stuff, and they ended up going with actually the larger number. But I wasted a lot of time with that team and sort of with my inexperience because I didn't have that stuff in my head. So, stuff in your head, it maps perfectly back to the Agile Manifesto, which is far less annoying than Vanilla Ice. So that's the first rule. Stop, collaborate, listen. Vanilla Ice, you already knew it was the Agile Manifesto, but a new tool for getting it stuck in your head, some of those moments of heated battle between QA people and dev people with new teams. You'll remember that. Second one, the annoying toddler. The annoying toddler. You may know it as, how many Y's are there? I think 5, yeah, 5. So by repeating Y 5 times, the nature of the problem, as well as the solution, becomes clearer. Or maybe clearer if you're lucky, I suppose. So I'm going to give you, I'll give you an example of that in case you're not familiar with it, a very simple one. And then I'm going to give you these organizational impediment forms that my friend Michael James, who you might know from like the Scrum, 6 pages of Scrum reference card, kind of cool PDF you can download. We'll go through this. Something that's wonderful that you can use for retrospectives or just getting to the root of a problem. We'll go over it in a second. But I'll give you a very simple example of this. Say your annoying toddler who keeps asking why grows up to be maybe an annoying teenager, and you come home to find the dishes in your sink that he was supposed to do are not done. You could go and get very upset and say, why are the dishes not done? Or you just ground him without asking. They weren't done. It's very clear. They're in the sink. But you go up and you ask, why aren't they done? And he says, well, I was in my room. And you think to yourself, you're always in your room playing Xbox, but it's no good. you're grounded. Or you could ask another why instead, and you could say, well, why were you in your room? I think that would be our third why, right? Well, I was in my room because I was studying for a test that I have tomorrow, and I'm really concerned I'm going to fail it. Okay. Why are you concerned you're going to fail it? It turns out that I missed most of the material. I can't see the board from where I'm sitting. You could ask another why and discover that your kid needs glasses. If you had stopped at the dishes and been pissed off because the dishes weren't done, you wouldn't have gotten to the real root cause, which is your kid probably needs glasses so he can do better in school and maybe get to the dishes. Probably still won't do the dishes, but nevertheless. 5 whys. So by repeating why 5 times, you can often, with your team, get to the root of an issue. So I'm going to pass out these organizational impediment forms. They have a few spaces on them, 5 in fact, oddly. The first one is to write down what your surface issue is. So if you're sitting with people maybe that you work with, you're welcome to group together and do this, or if you want to do it individually, you can do that as well. You write down a surface issue, maybe something you just dealt with your team or organization. Then use the 5 whys to get to the root of why that surface issue might exist. Yeah? I will say that if you're doing this on your own, it's useful. If you're doing it with your team, it's way more useful, right? So you're at a bit of a disadvantage here, but you'll get to go at least through the form here and get some experience doing it so you can take it back to your team. The next thing, if you stop there, it might be useful, but it's probably more useful if you go on to the next few steps. The first thing is to discuss with yourself or with your team the business impact of that issue. Right? So what is the cost to the business by us having this issue and not having it resolved? And then, this often gets left out, but I think it's really useful. What's the emotional impact to your team because of that impediment? We often look past this, but Joe Justice, the guy from Wikispeed, who built the 100-mile-to-gallon car, the distributed Scrum team and such, he says, morale is a multiplier of velocity. Right? If you want your team to do well, help build morale in the team, help remove impediments for the team. So if there's a big emotional impact on something, it's probably hurting your velocity. Right? So it's good to be clear with your team on what that emotional impact is to them. It's even useful to go and talk with whomever you might have to remove that impediment, maybe it's outside of the team, to be able to fill them in on those things as well. It's not just a business impact, it also has an emotional impact probably on your team, and that's making them not as effective as they could be. And then lastly, I would not leave without doing this if I was doing it in retrospective. What's the clear, actionable request you could take to the rest of the organization or the person who might help remove that impediment for moving this thing forward, right? If we just do the first 4 steps of the form, you'll be closer to a solution for this impediment, or you'll be able to remove perhaps that Agile Antipattern, but you won't be able to do it unless you have a clear, actionable request after that, or steps forward. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm going to break these up into little stacks here, and I'll pass them around the tables. There should be enough for everyone. There are not a ton of pens here. There's some Sharpies I borrowed, which I'll need back afterwards. Don't run off with them. But we'll take 10 minutes to fill that out either in pairs or by yourself, however you feel best. And then we'll go over a couple of them if people want to share their results. Here are your forms. And I will start the time box.
business level. Just came up with something. I don't know about marketing, back pay at all. Usually when customers are satisfied, they basically, I don't know, I think for that you're going to need to answer the 5 whys. Yeah. I don't think I've got one actually wants to 5 whys, 6 whys. Brian, how can I do? Yeah, I think we can't really answer it. So I think, yeah, you think the 5 whys the person is responsible. Yeah. That could be potential answers to the life.
I love that the only place this works is with Agilists and kindergartners. If you haven't seen one of these before, it's a time timer. It's actually labeled time timer as opposed to, I don't know, an egg timer or I don't know what else you would time. But they come in 3 sizes. The traveling one. You can get them on Amazon, at least in the States you can. Okay, so the organizational impediments form. Did anybody gain, or let me rephrase that, who gained some insight from, whoa, lots of hands. Ooh, raise your hand if you got some insight. I didn't mean to stop you. I scared myself there, too. Sorry. Great. Who would like to share some insight they got? Maybe what their issue was, and maybe the root cause they got to from 5 Whys. The room goes silent. Yes, in the back.
Well, our issue was there are no product involvement. And then after asking the 5 whys, we realized that the product owners don't have the right experience. And the business impact is huge. It's losing 2 months of dev time per year. And the emotional impact is low morale. And the clear request is train them on their products or replace them or bring in a consultant expert.
You put the consultant in scare quotes. Awesome. All right, thank you. Yeah, the other pattern I see with that often actually is that the organization has made a product owner out of someone who is far too important to spend 70–80% of their time in the product backlog. They always do stuff just in time, and they get to planning, and then they're not available for the next 2 weeks for the sprint because they have a million other things to do. Right? That could be it, or who knows? So excellent. What? Anyone else have one? You gain some insight on. Yeah. Okay. But you. At the same time, go. I think your hand is up first. Go for it. What do you have? No.
The developers feeling uncomfortable with the process. And originally started out first line with communication. And eventually it forces down to it being their team. Whereas once again, the developer isn't necessarily important for the whole team.
Okay.
And if you spend 20% more time on a piece of process, so if you do it for the rest of the team, the value you get back from that is more than the time that you spend.
All right. So did your form end up with an actionable request at the bottom there?
Understand your team's needs.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And you were next, I think.
Yeah, so we have an issue that as an intern, we're experimenting with someone who's not really learning fast enough or at all in the way that it's working. The root cause we found is probably an unstructured environment. So going through all of the spaces and the ways it's working, so it's not getting clear expectations and things like that. Business impact is quite large, unsatisfied technical expectations in both directions, customer impact, but that he is working well in non-technical spaces. The emotional impact is quite draining on the team and how things are going. The actionable requests are creating a structured environment or engaging on purpose, or dedicating time to actually teaching. And the one that we didn't consult on, but that I wrote afterwards, is kind of the other one, which is pathways. Maybe realizing the experience.
So, yes.
Sorry, we had a bit of an interesting one here in our company. We had, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes,
sorry.
go again.
We had an interesting one. We actually had missing deadlines. And we used the 5 whys to try and break it down. But it turns out, trying to do it that way is we actually had a bigger problem than we emphasized. So the one path we laid down didn't actually solve it, and we didn't come to a root cause of that. Well, we actually need to break it down into more granular organizational impediment forms. Sorry. So would that be the task? I mean, would that be the way to resolve it? Should we just break down each task individually? Because our one was really just missing deadlines, and I mean, some of the reasons are external influences, other things are, unclear communication, and we actually, as I said, we have more than 5, but we could only really follow one track in this case. How
Sure.
would we resolve it?
I think it's great to follow one track like you did.
Yeah.
And then to create an impediments backlog, really, for the organization based on all those tracks that you could go down. So you could spend, like you said, a form for each one of these, or use different retrospective techniques for delving into each one of them. But if the outcome of that, maybe several sessions, perhaps if you have a ton of things that are leading up to that, could be an impediments backlog that the organization worked through to help fix that quite large problem that you're describing there. So yes, multiple forms would be great, or switching it up using some other approaches might be useful as well. Questions or comments? Yeah.
I mean, I've used it, but also experienced that it's been used in many aggressive manner.
Yeah.
So tone.
Like they just scream "Why at you" 5 times?
Not
Right.
intuitively, but like what the hell are you doing?
Right.
And that obviously has
You missed the deadline.
so that obviously has the wrong effect. So
Right.
It's not just about us and far along.
Certainly, and I think for it to really work, just like any retrospective you could have, having trust there so that that is not being abused is essential. Otherwise, the 5 whys probably won't lead to much, and probably won't get you much of the emotional impact. Who's going to share that, right, when they're being emotionally wide to death? So yes, certainly you would need that. The form alone will not give that to you. Yeah. Anything else? So you have copies of the form. I highly recommend using it for either if you have a coaching engagement, you're going into work with a new team, or just with an existing team that you're a Scrum Master for. They're great for retrospective. There are blank copies up there. There's a few left. You have copies. Easy to recreate. I hope they're useful to you. Again, that Michael James put that particular form together. So that's the second of 3 tools. I'm going to go through another tool, 2 more tools actually. We're going to tackle some of the actual Agile Antipatterns together. We are then going to play a game to see if we can come up with new anti-patterns here in the room and come up with our top Agile Antipattern. And at the end of that, we will have a drawing where you can win some Agile Antipattern cards or a box of my retrospective cookies. These are fortune cookies with retrospective questions in each one of them. So you get a snack and a retrospective in the same box for your team, because every retrospective needs snacks, right? It's in the box. And they're really fresh because I just had them made by the factory. Anyway, we'll get to that at the end. And then at the very, very end, I will show you about 2.5, 3 minutes of footage of the world's worst ScrumMaster, exhibiting most of these Agile Antipatterns, and probably some that are not on cards. We'll get to that at the end. Sorry. No, I assure you it's not you. All right. So this next one is a bit of a story here. It's my Archimedes rule. I don't know if it's a rule, but I call it Archimedes. And the reason is Archimedes quote, "Give me a place to stand on and I will move the earth." This one comes along with a little story and a blurry picture. At the same place that I was describing at the beginning of this talk, where I had the VP, who in relatively short order was hell-bent on trying to kill me, I think, or extract me from the organization. This is a photo from there. Incriminating details have been blurred out on the wall, so you can't identify where it was. But I will tell you why we came up with this. He had a plan, and I found this out because he mislabeled an email. There were 2 Adams who worked at the organization, and he ended up sending it to me by accident, which was probably not the best move for him. Nevertheless, it was a Friday, and he was planning to go into the board and the rest of the exec team and say how he was going to fix Scrum. We've been doing Scrum for 6 months, 9 months at that point, and it was certainly bumping up against what he wanted to do, which was clearly not Scrum. He was very command and control. And while that might have worked well for him in the past at other organizations, there was a clear mandate at this organization to bring me in and help roll out Scrum. So my job was to try to work with that. But he got this email on a Friday, and on a Monday he was going into the steering committee to explain his changes to Scrum. And he outlined them in this email. He sent it to me by accident. And it was clearly going to make Scrum not Scrum anymore. So I came to this place where I realized if I'd like to do Scrum, if I want to be a Scrum coach here at this organization, I have to decide. Am I willing to possibly lose my job over this? Or should I stay here, do this thing that kind of sounds like Scrum because it has some of the words, and I can collect my salary and I guess be happy in some way. And I decided, no, that doesn't seem like a good plan. So I worked together with the product owner that weekend, who, by the way, the product owner of this team absolutely loved Scrum. He felt it gave a ton of insight into a process that they had no insight into before, and he was actually able to be a good product owner for his product, which they were not doing, however, whatever they were doing previously. And since the VP was going to come in and try to derail Scrum and explain why it didn't work and why he knew better, we thought the best thing you could do as a Scrum Master is just keep the things that are true big and visible in front of the whole organization. So the product owner and I snuck into the building Saturday morning. I found this out over the Friday, and Saturday morning we brought this giant TV in. It was probably about the size of this TV. I guess it's not giant, but then it seems more giant. It's gotten a lot bigger. And we hooked up a little Apple TV to the back of it, and I had 5 or 6 slides. And it had really incendiary stuff, like the plan to deliver business value each sprint. Ooh. 2-week sprints, because he was going to change it to like a month or 5 months. I don't remember. It was crazy. We were going to have daily scrums that would happen, oddly, every day. We'd have sprint planning sessions at the start of every sprint. We'd have a sprint review and a retrospective at the end of every sprint. Basically the Scrum framework, right? None of this was shocking, but he was about to go in and say, Scrum is something totally different. It's not this thing. He's doing it wrong. The rest of the team is doing it wrong. This is no good. I want to change it. And we had some quotes from the product owner saying this was the best thing that had happened to his product. Had something from the CTO who was supportive. And we put that on a TV so that when you walked into the office that morning, the first thing you saw was this big TV, and it was right in front of the conference room where they were going to have this meeting. I had tried, so thank you for pointing that out. I highly recommend, she said it was very passive aggressive. And it might have just been aggressive really at this point. I had tried every other coaching approach I could possibly think of. Maybe I didn't always do the best with them, but I did my best with them. I had built great relationships with the rest of the organization, and no matter what I tried to do with this VP, it was clear that he had no interest in doing Scrum. And so I figured I get to choose be passive aggressive or maybe aggressive in this chance, and maybe we'll move Scrum forward, or I'll leave next week. That's what it had come down to. Like, I'm either going to stay here and do Scrum, or I'm going to leave. And I'm not saying everybody needs to make that decision. Scrum is clearly very important to me, and it's a thing I want to do. So I don't really want to be in an organization that's not doing Scrum if they're sort of past the point of no return, which we are quickly approaching with his email plan to me. But I got more passive-aggressive than that, so thank you. You probably can't tell, but there's little bowls here. I went to the supermarket and specifically found candies that were very difficult to unwrap. And I put them in the bowls so that when you walked in the morning, the first thing you saw this, and you went, whoa, candy! And you picked up a candy, and then you spent the minute and a half trying to unwrap it, and you had to watch all the slides. The outcome of this is he went to his meeting, where he was going to derail. Well, the first outcome was he was very unhappy for some reason. And the second outcome was he went to his meeting and they asked him, how is Scrum doing? He said, just fine, thank you. And we got to carry on with actually doing Scrum. So it worked. Don't do this if you really want to stay where you are, regardless if they do Scrum. That would be crazy. But, you know, if you'd like to be passive-aggressive, go for it. So that's my Archimedes. You have to, I think, stand for something if you are a Scrum Master or Agile coach. Scrum would be a good thing to stand for. That is the way I did it there. So, Archimedes rule. A last-ditch effort, I think, in that case. There's one more tool that you are already familiar with, but it's really, really helpful for these Agile Antipatterns. And it bears, I often remind my teams of these because we sort of forget about them. It's the Agile Manifesto, right? And it's specifically 12 principles. These can help defuse Agile Antipatterns amazingly well. And so what I want to do is I'm going to give you a copy of each one of these. And by the way, if you need a pretty PDF, like you can print these out there in color of both values and principles. If you ever need a copy of that, they're free for downloading on my site. They're PDFs. I'm going to give each table one of these, or a few of these. And I'm going to give each table a couple of the Agile Antipatterns. I think with the number of people in here, each table gets one or two to pick from. If you don't like the Agile Antipattern I gave you, if you have a burning one that you would like your table's help or your team's help with, you could write one down. I'll come by with some Post-its as well. So your goal here is to select an anti-pattern or create one of your own, and then to discuss which of the principles or which of the other 3 tools that we've been through will address that, and come up with some prescription for dealing with one of the anti-patterns. We'll go around to a few tables and discuss what anti-pattern you picked and how you decided you would defuse it. Make sense? Excellent. I will give you a time box of roughly 10 minutes for that as well. I will come by with these cards and the rest of the handouts, and we will go from there. For 10 minutes, start at the moment. Yes. The table. Here you go. I'll actually do that. Let's see. Your cards, any cards?
Get one code.
Hey, nice to see you.
Yes, you too.
Antipattern with that.
Funny thing is, I actually agree with that.
The same company that one you guys would like
I'd use the 5 whites. I'd use the 5 whites.
We can't start our work until we decide what we're
You said you can also use one of the techniques as well.
If our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through continuous delivery of software, and if there's something we have to do, let's welcome changing requirements even later in reality. This talks against that. Welcome changing requirements because it's making things. Actually, we can't start
This is not what it's basically to email to as in English.
Stop collaborating. Okay. Need a remix. All right. Let's see. What people would like to share their Agile Antipatterns they picked and the solution they came up with for it? Da-da-da. Yes.
I don't want to necessarily present the table.
Okay.
In a true spirit of collaboration. But the one we picked was I was pulled off the sprint and put onto an emergency project again.
So it was pulled off the sprint and put on an emergency project again. All right.
So we used the Agile manifesto and we looked at the first one is our highest priority is to satisfy the customer. Okay, sounds like a pattern, not an anti-pattern. The next one was welcome changing requirements. Welcome changing requirements.
This is working perfectly. This is what I hope you would leave with. Okay, continue.
We decided this was a joke to call it. So it's not an anti-pattern. No. Listen to him. No, my notion was that we're framing this as a problem because we are assuming a method, Scrum, which Agile is bigger than, that maybe says that this is a problem, but we don't really know if it is a problem.
Okay.
That's
So-
my take.
Yes. So I can tell you the story of how that one came up, and it might clarify. We'll see if we're talking about the same thing. There was a team that was working very well together, and one or two people kept getting pulled off from that team to go work on stuff in their own little silos. Is that what you have sort of the same picture? No.
So, I mean, you're working in a sprint, the server is down.
Yes.
No, not break our sprint. We need to finish our sprint.
I agree. Yes.
Maybe
Right.
It makes sense to make the emergency thing.
Sure. So if you have an emergency fix that your Scrum team needs to work on, you have a 2-week sprint and something that can't possibly work until the next, I would recommend getting your team together and whoever requested this thing, and the product owner, estimate that item and switch it for something that's of like value, right? And so I totally agree. You couldn't ignore that for 2 weeks and expect the business to be happy with you. You might have just lost $1 million or 1 million customers. But what this one really referred to was that the team was building this great amount of momentum, and the rug kept getting ripped out from underneath them because individuals would get moved to other stuff. And so I like to think that, let's see, I just totally blanked because I'm in front of a bunch of people. But one of the values there, build teams around motivated individuals, give them,
Environment control they need.
there you go.
Trusted being on the job.
Yeah, so the team wasn't able to be a team. It kept getting fragmented. So in that case, I might recommend to the organization or the team that work get moved to them. These emergency things that need to be done go into the product backlog. And if you need to trade like for like because it's an emergency in a sprint, by all means do that. But if you want to get a high-performing team, you probably need to keep them together and not pull the rug out from under them. But I do agree that if you have these emergency things and then just want to ignore them because you're doing Scrum now, that's probably an anti-pattern and won't help you very much in the long run. Any other anti-patterns that people picked and came up with a solution for? Okay, maybe we're all like very much at peace with our anti-pattern. The after lunch slum. The glitter. If there was glitter at each table, we would be set. I feel very good about that. Yes.
We had we're in a hurry, so we'll do QA after the sprint.
Yes.
We kind of went round and round finding 4 principles that back in. The one we ended up on, so we looked at a couple of principles we were violating. So 4 orders from delivering working software frequently to the highest priority to satisfy the customer to continuous delivery, which neither of those we're doing.
Okay.
And we're also skimping on attention to technical excellence and good design. But the one that we ended up on was that working software is the primary measure of progress. And so if we take that principle and use that to say that's what we need, the only thing we're going to measure is actually working software, which is QA software, then we might actually end up with the end of it.
Excellent.
Good discussion.
Great. Any others? Yeah.
I just have a question. So if you've got a new team, how do you build trust? Like practical ways you build trust in that team from the start?
A new team, what are practical ways to build trust?
Yeah.
Does the table have a favorite way? Yeah.
I've just been working with a team where, and also coincidentally reading Patrick Lindsay's 5 dysfunction. And he gives a really, really cute, nice example there where you get people to answer questions about themselves. So create humanizing and create relationships within their team. So they answer 5 personal questions that are not too personal. So something like, where's your hometown? How many siblings have you got? What was your weirdest or most interesting childhood hobby? What was your biggest challenge growing up? And what was your first job? And it was really, really cool to go around the table and get the team to answer those questions. They were a very new team and knew nothing about each other. And it really actually had quite an impact on them getting to know each other as people, which is the baseline, I think.
And I think that in teams that I do that sort of thing with, and it works, wonderful. In the teams where I have the hardest time is teams that I do things like that, and it doesn't work. And then the next thing I look for is, why is the team so scared, right? So as a Scrum Master, I would try to figure out, in all those cases that I can think of, at least at the moment, the team was petrified of something. They probably got in huge trouble in the past for underestimating the amount of work something would take or whatnot. It's usually an organizational impediment that there's some culture of fear in that organization. So I tried to help the team identify what that is through retrospectives, and then try to help remove that as a Scrum Master. But hopefully this works a ton of the time, and when it does, awesome. If not, I start looking for, why are they so scared to let that sort of grow? And it's usually because of past experience there or maybe elsewhere. I saw a hand this way.
Yeah. You know, I just wanted to add another perspective to it, and I think perhaps it's also about starting with self-trust. So it's about saying, how well can I align what I think and feel and say and do? So I represent what trust looks like, and people can actually see that behavior and know what to follow.
That's fantastic, yeah. And I'll do that with a new team in retrospectives, right? The stuff that you guys share here in the retrospective, I will not share with the rest of the organization unless you would like me to. I'm not going to leave here and report back on you, for example. So I try to state those things very clearly and model that sort of trust that I'd like on the rest of the organization. And a little bit, usually in those cases, goes a long way because people aren't so used to that, sadly. Great. Anything else? Yeah?
We've actually been reading 5 dysfunctions of the team in the team together and discussing openly, okay, what can we do with trust and so on.
Nice.
And also I recommend Lisa Adkins' book. She got a lot of marketing skills, learning of life, and all these exercises.
Yeah, coaching for agile teams.
Yeah.
Awesome book as well. Is there a hand back there? Yeah.
I think last year's success week, there was a talk also on trust. I think the lady, they said, best way to trust somebody is to actually, well, to build trust is actually to trust first, and then if the person honors that trust or doesn't let you down, then the trust is there, otherwise it will be broken down. So go out and live and actually trust first, instead of trying to build trust other ways.
Trust isn't earned, it's given.
Yeah. Is somebody calling into the session? They have questions.
They have a question. They want to know about Agile Antipatterns. Can you tell them about it?
On the phone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at the next break, I'll just
Cool.
get their number. All right. Great, let's see how we're doing. Oh, excellent. So I will need the Agile Antipattern cards back, but you can just leave them on a pile in each table. I'll come and get them. I want to come up with some, or find out what anti-patterns you guys have. And so to do that, we're going to play a game, which should be entertaining with the number of people we have in here. In the center of each table, there's a stack of cards. Probably enough for the whole room. If not, I have some more here. If all else fails, you can rip out a page of your book or use the Post-its that I passed around. Every person should end up with one of these cards to begin with, and some writing utensil. There are pens on the table there, or in your bag, the conference bag, you have a pen. So everybody grab that. I'll give you a minute to each get a card and some writing implement, and we'll come up with some new anti-patterns together. Anybody who needs a card, does not have one. Everybody not have a card? All right, excellent. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, so that by yourself, on your own, quietly, you will write down an anti-pattern you've run into or this conversation has reminded you of. You can write it down as a quote, like the ones that you just got on your Agile Antipattern cards. If you can't think of one, you can think of one that you just heard that's your favorite. I guess you could write that down. What we want to end up with is a card that has on one side of it the Agile Antipattern that you just came up with or reminded you of. On the back of the card, or maybe, yeah, on the back of the card at the bottom, leaving a bunch of room at the top because we'll need that. Write down your name And if you'd like, you can put your email address. I can send you a chapter of my forever in progress book on Agile Antipatterns. I'll send you a free PDF chapter if you put your email address. Not required, but at least put your name so we know who ends up coming up with the most exciting Agile Antipattern in the room. So I'm going to give you about a minute and a half to do that. One side, you're going to write down your anti-pattern. The other side, at the bottom, leaving room for other stuff, you'll put down your name, your email address if you'd like a copy of the Agile Antipattern chapter. Take about a minute for that, and we'll get the phones started.
Sit ready before Do you only have to four tips?
Yeah, I was in
So you know.
we have one
I'm from
More basically energy in the room than my timer. It's not a real time bomb. He does. All right, please raise your hand if you are not ready to move on. All right, you have another 10 seconds. No pressure. All right, that's time. Hopefully you finished. It'll work out if you didn't. Let's go on. All right, we're going to play a game now. Do you have your attention? Okay, I'll do it. All right, we're going to play a game called 35. Anyone play 35 before? All right, yeah. That's okay, you don't have to play if you'd like to sit it out, you're welcome to. We'll be very passive aggressive. It's a joke. All right. No, you're more than welcome to sit it out if you like. This will still totally work out. The way 35 works is this. You're going to pair up with one other person. Don't do it yet. You'll need to hear the instructions. You're going to pair up with one other person. There might be an odd number of people. I'm not about to count. If there's 3 people, you just get together as 3 people. That'll be fine. But try to pair up with one other person. In the minute time box you have, one person will read their Agile Antipattern, explain very, very briefly, because they only have a minute total for both the 2 people to do this. Read your Agile Antipattern. Then the other person, who's facing this way apparently, will read their Agile Antipattern. You then, as a team of 2, will vote across the 2 cards, spending 7 points total, and only spending whole numbers. For example, if you thought they were very close, one card of importance, 7 being the most important, 1 being the least, you would put, or 0 being the least, you would put 4 on one card and 3 on the other. The trick is, you as a team of 2 have to come up with consensus about this. You have to agree, or at least agree to support each other. So, you will flip the card over on the side that does not have the Agile Antipattern, but does have a name or email address. You will write down that number, right? So one will write down 4, the other one will write down 3. Or you can decide, wow, mine actually is not that important at all. I'm going to give it a 0, and I'm going to give a 7 to the other one with my partner. So at the end of the time box, you need to have your card with a number on the back that you just voted, and then await further instructions. Don't do anything after that. Any questions? This is the first round. You have about a minute for this. The goal is to come up with a number on the back of each card, a whole number between 1 and 7 that you came to agreement with your partner on. Go ahead. the microphone. On the back of your card, you probably should have 5 numbers. If you remember whose line is it anyway, the points don't matter. It's the game, it's the conversation you guys have about these cards that matters. So, nevertheless, add up the 5 numbers, or if you have 6, feel lucky. Add those up and come up with a total. That total should go on the front of the card with your anti-pattern. Give me a second to do that. Yeah, sure, why not? You could. Okay, if you have more than 5, we'll go with Karen's suggestion of take away one of the numbers that you don't like very much. I don't know what to tell you. It'll all work out. It's not the most scientific of games, but it will give us roughly what was most important to us in the room here, give or take. So our goal here is to come up with the top anti-patterns that you guys came up with. The top person, the person that would have the highest anti-pattern number, can choose between a pack of Agile Antipattern cards or retrospective fortune cookies. The runner-up will get the remaining thing. If there's a tie, we'll see what happens. I will give you a warning. The first time I played this game, my card ended up with 0 points on it. I was a participant and I was very depressed. Until I realized I was the first person to give it a 0. In the first round, I decided my partner's was not as important. So the points don't matter. It doesn't mean that if your card got 0, it's not important. It just means the others got ranked higher in this silly game called 35. With that said, it's called 35 because you can vote up to 7 points. Maybe more if you have we do 5 rounds. So it's possible the card will end up with 35 points. So, does anyone have a card that has 35?
I think there's one here, there's one here.
35?
It's anonymous.
It's anonymous. But don't read the card yet. We have to build suspense. What? So, sorry, it has 35?
Yeah.
And we don't know who it's from. But the cookies are so good. All right. It's yours? All right. So, that's 35. Anyone have 34? 33? 32? Wow, 31? 31? Okay, hang on to that for a second. 31?
Oh, I have 6 numbers.
You have 6 numbers. Did you change out one of the numbers? I did say that originally, but then Karen has this brilliant idea of removing one of them. So we'll demote them. Sorry. All right. 31, 30, 29, 28, 28. Hold on to yours. Is there another 28? Okay, 28, 27, 27. All right. We have the top 3 cards. One of them's anonymous. We'll start with the anonymous. What is the? Actually, we'll start at the bottom. Number 3. What was yours?
The ScrumMaster is just an Agile project manager.
The ScrumMaster is just an Agile project manager. I have not got that one before. Excellent. That one's going in the pack. Hold on to that for 1 sec. The second place person. Yes, who had that?
Snow estimation, backlog management, storage, implementation. There's actually 3 into one.
Oh!
That's cheating.
What? Pick one of them and read the game, because I didn't hear it.
Recount. Storage into sprint light.
All right. Right. And the number 1 that's anonymous, it's so amazing, no one wants to take credit for it. What was that anti-pattern?
One person in Scrum team.
Thank you to whoever wrote that. Let's see, so the second place person, where'd you go? You had 3 things on the card. Retrospective cookies or Agile Antipattern cards, which would you like? The cards. All right. That means sorry. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Whose name was on that card?
Like if.
Okay. Which would you like? Sorry. Sorry? Cookies. They're very fresh. And the third place, whose card was that?
All FNG
What? Crazy. Agile Antipattern. Thank you, sir. coincidence. So I'm going to take these back with me, and I will create new cards based off these, because a couple of those are new. I had not heard them before. There's probably a bunch other new ones. If you don't mind, they may get added to the pack. If you do mind, come and let me know, and we'll pull yours out of the box, I guess. I will pass this around. I'm about to show you the video of the world's worst Scrum Master ever. I don't need to pass it around, because you'll just leave them on the table. I'll come and get them after the workshop. All right. It's maybe the moment you've been waiting for or dreading. It's 3.5 minutes. The world's worst Scrum Master. Hit the video. The world's worst Scrum Master. I will put my contact information up after the video. You're welcome to shoot me an email or whatnot. I'd love to chat with you. But with that said, the world's worst Scrum Master, exhibiting most of these Agile Antipatterns, probably more. I'm sorry I have to subject you to this. See how this works out.
I have a problem. I can't get access to the error database in a consistent way.
That's not it. In this retrospective today, I've got a list of 10 improvements I'd like you guys to address for the next sprint. Hey, Cara, I'm going to need you guys to get more work in progress. It's pretty good, but you need more stuff in there. Awesome! Guys, that was our fastest stand-up yet. That was only 40 minutes.
Hey, I was just reading this, Adam, and it says Scrum is all about going faster. What's taking you so long?
Get back to work. There's no way this story's a 13. This is more like a 2. All right, so we'll kick off this retrospective with 5 minutes of silent writing. Silent writing, that's not an impediment. As your Scrum Master and Product Owner, these are the stories I need you to commit to this sprint.
My computer was stolen in the break-in last night, so I can't get any work done until I get a new one.
Have you heard of paper?
We need to have this feature demo this afternoon. You can get it done, right? Great.
Oh, no problem. I'm just going to add this to your work in progress. Yeah, continuous integrations never helped anybody. Just skip that. Oh, no, Chris, listen. We're doing Scrum now, so we don't have to share that sort of stuff, man.
3 months, and management thinks we can get it done in another sprint, and I just don't understand.
Hey guys, surprise! Our CEO is joining us for today's retrospective, but just do everything normal. Hey guys, you're totally flailing, so I'm going to cut this sprint a couple days short. Where are you going?
Bio.
Do you have a task for that? All right, guys. Here's how you let our company down this sprint. I was just thinking, you guys have a lot to do this sprint, so let's make your sprint 3 weeks instead of 2. We'll just change it up. Hey,
it's crazy.
Disagree and commit. That's not an impediment. So are we calling this story done? Close enough. The ayes have it. You guys are doing great this sprint. The other team's velocity is a little bit higher. Could you pick it up just a little bit? 5 minutes of silent writing. Hey. No, now's a fun time. I'm just in a retrospective. A job at Google? Yeah. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so if you guys could just do your daily Scrum by email, just at whatever time you like. Just shoot on email. That's not an impediment. It's great. The other team's velocity is much better than yours, so I'm going to need you guys to work late tonight. Check it out. The cat's eating a cheeseburger. That can't be healthy at all.
Thank you guys for coming. I totally appreciate it. I'll pick up your antipatterns. If you don't want them to appear in Agile Antipattern deck, I guess come and talk to me. We'll pick them out.